Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships.
This is the Couples Academy Show. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani. I'm riding solo today, so it's just you and me, but I just want to welcome you on this Monday morning. I hope you had a great weekend. I know that we did. Family, friends, fun. That's what it's all about. But now we got to get back in the saddle and make things happen. So we're glad to have you all on. We want you to check in with us. Let us know who you are, where you're calling in from. You have been calling in from all over the world, and we just want to take the time to acknowledge you. Guys, we just want to make a few quick announcements before we get started. First of all, like, share, and subscribe, okay? That's key. We want to let people know that we're here. And the way that we do that is by you helping us. And simply by sharing with your community, it lets the word get out tremendously. I do want to announce that the Last Chance Weekend is full. So we want to thank you for reaching out to us and getting registered for that. We're excited about that. The next one will be coming up probably in, what is this? This is June, so probably August, because in July we do have a conference that's coming up that we're going to be telling you about. But I'm excited today because just this past weekend we had an amazing couple that came down from New Jersey to spend a weekend with us. And we did some work. We did some transformational work on our 3-day private marriage intensive, but it would not be possible if it were not for this couple. And I want to take the time to honor them. These are Couples Academy ambassadors, John and Stacy Palmer. A special thanks for caring for another couple. They recommended the couple that we were with this weekend. We've had worked with them in years past, but they were, I guess, impacted significantly in an amazing way by the work that we've done together, that they referred their neighbors. And so we just want to give them a big shout out and a thank you for making a difference in the lives of others. So listen, if you know other couples who are in need and going through crisis and are looking for a way to recover and to get back on the right path, we want you to reach out to us. Let us know who they are. Have them reach out to us. Have them tune into the show. Have them set up a discovery call. That's what we're here for. We want to make a difference in the lives of people. All right. We're talking today, I think on Thursday, someone reached out and said, listen, why don't you do a show on being equally yoked? And so today we want to talk about, are you equally yoked in your marriage? Okay. Many people get married for many different reasons. And then they wake up one day saying, do I even know you? Who are you? I don't know if we're aligned anymore. And so we want to take the time to walk through what this looks like, what alignment looks like, to see where you fit into this particular discussion. But feel free to ask any question as we're going through this process. We want to give you a comprehensive understanding. And so when thinking about being equally yoked, for those of you who are Christians, that's a term that we typically hear because it's referenced in the Bible. There's a scripture, and I'm reading from the New Living Translation in 2 Corinthians 6, verse 14 through 16. It says, don't team up with those who are unbelievers. How can righteousness be a partner with wickedness? How can light live with darkness? What harmony can there be between Christ and the devil? How can a believer be a partner with an unbeliever? And what union can there be between God's temple and idols? Now, depending upon the translation that you read, it's going to read slightly different, but in essence, it's talking about opposites, right? Now, we've heard before that opposites attract, and that's true. Opposites do attract, but the question is, are those opposites sustainable? There's certain opposites that actually add to the partnership. It adds to the whole. You need differences in a relationship in order for it to work, but it depends upon what those differences are. If those differences cause a strain, if those differences cause, I don't know, you all to falter and to be at odds with one another, if you don't know how to properly navigate yourself through it, then then these are things that we need to talk about. You know, in our book, The Audacity of Marriage, if you haven't gotten this book, you want to get it. There's a chapter in here entitled Resolving Conflict in Your Marriage. And in the second paragraph on the first page, I just want to read it to you, because it's quite interesting and speaks to this whole issue of being unequally yoked. It says, I compare marriage to the human body because there are many things that can cause its death, okay? Divorce or marital death is caused by prolonged unresolved issues. Even after many years of working with couples, I'm still amazed at the things that cause the most conflict. What is minuscule for one is detrimental for another. Many couples have sat in my office and cried, screamed, and thrown things at each other and stormed out of the room for a multitude of reasons. Topics of disagreement often include child rearing, nutrition, dress code, choice of friends, entertainment, drugs and alcohol, household responsibilities, sex, financial decisions, in-laws, work schedules, life decisions, extracurricular activities, so on and so on and so forth. There's so many things that can get in the midst of a couple that can cause a disconnect, a separation, and ultimately a divorce. Now, while it is true that most people have not learned conflict resolution skills, they haven't learned how to properly negotiate through things, it is also true that there are these huge wedges that take place in a relationship because couples are so far apart, it's almost like they're on separate planets and can't seem to get into alignment. And so what we've discovered is that one of the biggest struggles that couples face, like couples who have the most problems, are people who are, number one, of different faiths. Right? So if one person is a Muslim, someone's a Christian, or if someone's an atheist and someone's of a particular faith tradition. And the reason why this causes some of the most problems is because your faith has a culture within itself. It shapes how you think, your world outlook. It shapes sometimes the food you eat. It shapes the type of entertainment you're engaged in. It shapes the way you raise your children. It shapes the way you manage your money. And so that's why it's good to have a shared value system with the individual that you are married to. Because if you have different values and different ideas, not to say that you have to be the same, and we talk about this all the time, God is looking for unity, not uniformity. Okay, he's looking for oneness, not sameness. So you don't have to be the same. You don't have to think just like your spouse. You don't have to be a carbon copy of your partner, but you want to be in alignment. And so the question is, if we have a difference of perspective, can these differences work together to contribute to the greater whole? If it causes a disconnect, if it causes a competitive, argumentative, back and forth, tit for tat, low intensity warfare where neither one of us are willing to budge, well, now we have a problem on our hands, right? And so once again, we see that faith oftentimes is one of the biggest contributing factors to a demise of a relationship if they are not on the same page. And so this is why you want to make sure that you're taking the time to truly get to know the person that you're with. A couple points I want to go to in terms of how to get aligned with your partner and how to become equally yoked. Number one, slow down. I can't tell you how important this is. We've been talking about the 4 seasons of a successful relationship and how we go from the dating season to committed courtship to engagement and then into marriage. But what happens is when you reach a certain age, you don't have time. You know what? You need to get about your business. You need to get married. You want to have kids. You just want to enjoy life. Listen, we had a couple conversations. I asked some questions. You gave some answers. Let's just get married, right? And we're racing through the process. Or maybe if you're young, you don't know these particular seasons. They've never been outlined for you. And so you go from that pitter-patter in-love feeling to, okay, we have the components of being married. Let's go ahead and do it. And you've raced into a commitment that you are not ready for. And this happens because we live in a society where everything is so fast paced. We want what we want now. It's a microwave society. And if we can't have it in 2.3 seconds flat, it's taken too long. It's just too hard. And next, on to the next thing. And so you have to learn how to slow down. And we're going to talk about that on the other side of this break. What does it mean to slow down to make sure that you're having the right conversations to determine if you are in alignment? Listen, guys, you're watching the Couples Academy show. Stay tuned in. We got some great information that will determine if you're equally yoked or not. Be right back. Hey guys, welcome back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. We're talking about the topic, are you unequally yoked, or equally yoked, that is. But you were just watching a video on the Moving Forward program, just to let you know for those who are interested, because we do get questions all the time. Every single Monday evening is when we meet virtually as a group to really work on some things with couples to get them in alignment with one another. But it's powerful because we're taking them through that recovery process, providing them with a level of support. You know, we've always said, if you give us your marriage for 1 year, you will no longer recognize it. And that's why we're excited that people join the program, because they're saying we're committed to being the best versions of ourselves and having the best relationship we can have. And guess what? When you do that, you become equally yoked. Now listen, once again, I said that equally yoked is a term, right, that many people are familiar with if they're believers and they read the Bible, because it's referenced in there. But I want to give you a visual of what this thing actually looks like. Usually is referred to like this. According to the Webster, a yoke is a wooden bar or frame by which two animals, like oxen, are joined at the heads or necks and working together. The animals are joined by the yoke with the purpose of being joined or linked to accomplish the task at hand, such as pulling a load. So if two animals are unequally yoked, this means that one animal is not as strong as the other, not as tall as the other, one is weaker or shorter than the other, and it makes pulling that load much more difficult to do. And so the question is, when you think about your partner, are you two equally yoked? Now, once again, you don't have to be just like each other. You don't have to have the same gifts, talents, and abilities. You may have strengths that your spouse doesn't have, and that's okay. Like, for instance, we were talking with a couple, and one is more financially responsible in terms of being able to pay bills on time and making sure that they're organized with their mail system and their paperwork, and the other one literally is full of anxiety and freezes like a deer in headlights every time they have to think about it. And so the person who's financially I guess more prepared, if you will, wants the other one to start paying the bills. And I'm like, well, that's not their strength. And if you left it up to them, you may put yourself in a worse situation because that is not their skill set. So why don't you determine what their skill set is, what their strength is, and align it with a need in the household? Because if there are 10 needs, okay, who's better fit and better suit to meet that particular need to make sure that the thing gets done and done well, right? So that's number one. But number two is whoever's paying the bills, as an example, are you both in agreement about the way in which it is done? Are you both in agreement and in alignment with what your financial goals are? If one only wants to spend, as soon as the dollar comes in their hand, it's gone in 2.3 seconds flat because they can't keep money because they're living for it today and tomorrow will take care of itself. And another person is thinking about the future. They're thinking about the children. They're thinking about legacy. They're thinking about insurances. They're thinking about, saving up for a rainy day. And even though the money's coming in now, who knows what's going to happen a month from now? This is what we faced during the pandemic, right? We were faced with this new reality of, oh my God, the world has come to a pause. And what does this mean for career? What does this mean for security? What does this mean for the safety of our family? So people got in a mindset of, I got to save. I got to hold on to as much as I can to prepare for the unexpected. Are you in alignment with your partner when it comes to things like that? Are you equally yoked? These are examples of what we're talking about. We're talking about, are you equally yoked? Listen, I want to just acknowledge those of you who are tuning in. So to Clint and Brandon and LaShawn and Vashawn, Ladidra, Ralph, Treetop, good to see you, Darnielle, JD, Tiffany, the list goes on and on. Listen, we're all glad that you're here, Dudrick. We're talking about being equally yoked. And the first thing I said, you have to learn how to slow down, right? And what that looks like is this: stop racing. Stop racing to the altar. Listen, there's a season where you have to take the time to get to know. And one of the ways that you do that is by having conversation. This is a phenomenal book. Now listen, whether you're married or not makes no difference. If you're single and dating, great. But if you're married and already committed, no problem. Get the book anyway because it works. It's called Intellectual Foreplay. That's the name of the book. Now think about foreplay. Foreplay is something that you engage in that prepares you to go all the way, okay, in terms of sexuality. Intellectual foreplay are conversations that you have, right, to make sure that you're in alignment that prepare you to go all the way or further into your commitment. And so in this book, it covers finances and marriage and faith and work and goals and aspirations and chores around the house and a plethora of different subject matters that oftentimes couples do not take the time to talk about, right? So we're talking about number two, engaging in intellectual intimacy. When you have these conversations, you realize, okay, yeah, we are in alignment. We do think the same way. We are equally yoked. It just makes life easier when you're on the same page. When you're not on the same page, and obviously there are places where you just disagree. Well, we've talked about this before. Many people have settled on, well, we're just going to agree to disagree. And we emphatically do not believe in that. We believe in agreeing to agree. So let's figure out how to resolve this. And it doesn't have to happen by one person strong-arming the other, twisting the other's arm, manipulating, controlling, beating down, browbeating. It doesn't have to happen like that. We talk about that being a compromise. And compromises create a win-lose scenario that do not serve you. We're talking about learning how to properly negotiate through something. And so one of the tools that we have when we work with couples guides them through a process of, even though they're on two totally opposite ends of the spectrum, how can we begin to brainstorm and negotiate and meet in the middle to come to a place when we're both in agreement because we follow the policy of joint agreement. And the policy of joint agreement means that we enthusiastically agree with the decision that we have made about our lives and our future. That's the sweet spot. That's how you become equally yoked. Next. Number three, learn and grow together. Like we've said this time and time again, but if I'm reading a book Okay, I'm reading a book on, I don't know, character development. It would be great for me to read that with my spouse. It would be great for, at least for me to discuss it and have a conversations with my spouse. So as I'm learning and I gain an aha moment, I'm like, hey babe, Danielle, check this out. I just read in this book, such and such and such and such. It's on page 38, paragraph 3. What are your thoughts? Now we're wrestling and tussling with these concepts together, as opposed to me being in my own silo, simply working on myself, becoming my best me, while my partner is off doing her own thing. Who knows what that is? And she's growing and I'm growing, but we're growing apart because there's nothing binding us together. There's no connection. But when we read together, when we go to church together and are fed together, when we engage in experiences together, we're learning in the process, and our growth doesn't just benefit us, but it benefits the collective. It benefits the marriage and the family, guys. We're talking about being equally yoked and what you need to do. What are your questions? We want to hear from you. Be right back. This is the Couples Academy Show. Sign up today for the Better Marriage Club and receive exclusive access to the private Facebook group to get your questions answered and your problems solved. Access to our marriage library of live seminars. Watch the Couples Academy Daily Show. Call the help hotline for laser coaching. Get our weekly action guides and receive a private one-on-one call with one of our marriage coaches. To join the Better Marriage Club, simply text MARRIAGE to 973-490-4668. Join today. Your marriage deserves it. Couples Academy is expanding its team to meet the growing demand of people in need of help around the world. So if you're a trained, licensed, or certified expert in marriage enrichment, infidelity recovery, sex therapy, life coaching, cognitive behavioral therapy, divorce mediation, financial coaching, or family therapy, contact us today. Hey guys, we're back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. I'm glad that you're still tuning in with us as I'm looking through. We have people from all over the world. I just always am amazed how people, we're so connected. We got South Africa, we got South Carolina, major difference, right? Then we've got Baytown, Texas, North Carolina, Antigua and Barbuda. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Actually, I just got a call from somebody who's in, I think they were in the Bahamas, and interesting, newly married for about a year and a half, and married someone who lives in Haiti, and they were traveling back and forth for quite some time. And as a result of the pandemic, haven't seen their spouse in over a year, because those particular states are on lockdown and there's no travel between those two countries. And they were faced with the challenge of, listen, I love my spouse, I want to physically be with them. What are we permitted to do virtually that's within the sanctity of our relationship? They're believers. What does the Bible say about certain things? What can we do with each other virtually? And so there was a lot of, burden placed upon one of them because they didn't know if they were permitted to engage in certain things. And so we had to set them free and let them know, listen, within the confines of your marriage, whatever you need to do to satisfy each other in that way, go ahead and do it. I mean, it's just a horrible thing that the pandemic, and that's another thing, many people were trapped in the house together. But what we've determined and learned is that throughout the Caribbean, throughout the continent of Africa, and certain parts of the Middle East and Asia, spouses don't live together. literally they travel for 6 months to a year and work in different locations and send money back home. But in that period of time, at least they're making consistent trips back and forth to be with family. But when the pandemic happened, it put everything on hold. So families were hanging in limbo for quite some time. And so it's just interesting to see how people are impacted by the things that happen around the world that have absolutely nothing to do with them. And so learning how to overcome these particular issues and get through these crises are important. I see someone from the Netherlands. Good to see you. I love it. Listen, this is an international reach that we have. As soon as we get finished with this show, I'm doing a virtual 3-day intensive with an amazing couple from Nigeria. So listen, no matter where you are around the world, we would love to connect with you and work with you. You just saw that we're building our team. So if you're a licensed, certified, or trained professional practitioner, therapist, coach in different parts of the world, like Europe and Africa and Asia, the Caribbean, please reach out to us because we want to expand our reach. All right, we're talking about being equally yoked. I don't see many people commenting, so I guess everyone is in alignment, and I hope that the person who asked us to cover this is getting something out of this. The point is, you as a couple are individually different, but those differences should contribute to a greater whole. We talk about the importance of the marriage mastermind, and that is being in harmony with one another and bringing your collective strengths together under one roof and figuring out how you can become a power couple and not continue to remain in power struggles. So if you're that couple who feels like, you know what, we're just not aligned. We are as far apart as the East is from the West. We just can't get it together. We can't figure this thing out. No matter what I say, no matter what he does, we're not on the same page. Well, this is why we would encourage you to join a church together, join an organization together, go to a class together, read a book together, go to a counselor together, someone that can help you see the similarities that do exist, because you're not completely opposite. There's something that brought you together initially. And even for most people, it's physical attraction and emotional desirability. Oftentimes that is not enough to maintain that relationship. You need something more. You need a shared value system, relational code of ethics, right? A way of looking at the world that is similar, because it just makes life easier. When you can get to the place where you can finish your spouse's sentences, you already know what they're thinking, that speaks to alignment. That happens over time. You know what? It's so interesting. We love being inspired by couples who are doing life and doing life big. And when you're seeing, oh my God, that's such a great, awesome thing that they're doing, it speaks to the fact that they're in alignment. Couples ask us all the time, how are you able to work with your partner? If I would have had to work with my partner, we would be divorced. I would be pulling hair and you know what? The point is, there's a flow that you got to get into. And while it may be natural for some, it can be intentional for others. I don't care how far apart you are right now. If you put in the work, you can get to a place where you are in alignment. But it happens one step at a time. It happens one conversation at a time. And when you make the decision to remove ego, to remove pride, and when you become teachable, see, that's the key. Some people are just not teachable. They're not coachable. They're immovable. They're unwilling to change. They're married to their method. They want things their own way. And when that happens, you remain stuck in your situation. But just like Bruce Lee said, you got to be like water. You got to be fluid. You got to be flexible. You have to be bendable. You have to be able to become highly adaptable to this thing called marriage in order for it to work. Remember, you're two separate individuals who come together to be infused with one another to create something uniquely different. A new identity, a new way, a new methodology, a new lifestyle, and you can do it together. We're focusing on the relationship, the companionship within the structure of the marriage to make things work. J.D. Pruitt says, equally yoked is a is a confusing because everybody has their own definition of what it means. That's true. And this is why we say, JD, that it's important that as a couple, you have working operational definitions that you both subscribe to. So that means break out the Britannica, break out a dictionary, break out the scriptures, and come to terms on what it is first. Once you come to terms on what it actually is, then you could determine what that looks like in your relationship. Think about it. When you go into the dictionary, a word can have 5 and 6 different definitions, depending upon if it's a verb, if it's a noun, how it's used, certain situations. So that's true. There can be confusion, but amidst all of the differences in terms of how we think about it, how can we create a definition that works for us as a couple? See, that's the key. If it works for you and not for your partner, then it doesn't work for your marriage. If it works for your partner and not for you, it doesn't work for your marriage. So what can work for our marriage? What definition, what perspective can we develop together so that we're on the same page? Tiffany says, this was definitely needed for me. I was really needing to understand what it means to be unequally yoked. Well, we hope that we gave you just a glimpse, just something to chew on, to have a great conversation with your spouse. Listen, guys, we love you. We appreciate you. Tune in tomorrow. We're going to have another great topic. See you in the AM. Love you guys. Take care.